And forget the fact that when he sees the cameras, he's like a tiger, but he was a pussy cat when it was just him and the officers. How would he know? He had a bad back and a surgery, but there's no reason to believe he was left broke or broken by a horror story with an insurance company.
So this is who is lecturing us, you, the American people, on, I guess, fake victimhood. What is his net worth? Easy breezy. Estimated 16 million.
Hey, it's Jordan. I am in Flint, Michigan, East Palestine, Ohio, Tumwa, Iowa. Please support the only independent outlet on the ground covering what the corporate media covers up.
Hey, it's Jordan with Status Coup. There are a lot of new developments surrounding Luigi Mangione, the alleged shooter and killer of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson. And these include a notebook that has been found, allegedly written by him, with notes previewing his intention to kill Thompson. Also, previous online posts that also referred to the Unabomber as a political revolutionary, as well as online posts allegedly written by him that detail what seems to be denials he received from doctors denying him surgery for his back because of his age. And as I've reported in the recent days, his chronic back issue had caused not only physical pain, but emotional and mental pain. Let me first start with the notebook that police have discovered that they are alleging was his notebook. Police have suspect's notebook describing rationale for CEO killing. Let me give you the details. The notebook described going to a, quote, bean counter conference and killing an executive, the officials said. Quote, what do? You whack the CEO at the annual parasitic bean counter convention. It's targeted, precise, and doesn't risk innocence, was one of the passages written in the notebook, the officials said. Of course, this is all alleged, so we don't know for fact that this was his, but that's what's being reported. If you don't know the slang for bean counter, what that means, a person involved in corporate or government financial decisions, and especially one reluctant to spend money. So kind of a government bureaucrat, a cheapo, somebody who doesn't want to spend money, cheap, et cetera, et cetera. The bean counter, it's called. So basically, he was talking about the conference that Brian Thompson was supposed to speak at, the UnitedHealthcare conference, and he's calling it a parasitic bean counter convention, and targeted, precise, and doesn't risk innocence. So clearly he did not consider Brian Thompson of UnitedHealthcare an innocent. Want to also show you posts that have surfaced that allegedly were his, seeming to praise the Unabomber. A Goodreads profile that appeared to belong to Luigi Mangione shows that earlier this year, Mangione reported having read the 1995 anti-technology manifesto written by the Unabomber, Ted Kaczynski, the infamous domestic terrorist and mathematician known for sending deadly bombs through the mail between 1978 and 1995. Quote, it's easy to quickly and thoughtlessly write this off as the manifesto of a lunatic in order to avoid facing some of the uncomfortable problems it identifies. But it's simply impossible to ignore how prescient many of his predictions about modern society turned out, Mangione wrote in a review of the book in January. Quote, he was a violent individual, rightfully imprisoned, who maimed innocent people. While these actions tend to be characterized as those of a crazy Luddite, however, they are more accurately seen as those of an extreme political revolutionary. In his review, he also wrote thoughts someone else had shared about the Unabomber in a Reddit thread online, quoting a commenter who had described Kaczynski's acts as, quote, war and revolution, saying that he, quote, had the balls to recognize that peaceful protest has gotten us absolutely nowhere and that violence never solved anything is a statement uttered by cowards and predators. So, obviously, and Ted Kaczynski, has been a polarizing figure for a very long time. And there are a whole lot of people who think he's a hero. And whether you abhor what he did or think he's a hero, a lot of what he wrote in his manifesto about technology, and the environment, technology, and the dangers of technology have come true. I give you artificial intelligence and how UnitedHealthcare is using artificial intelligence to deny upwards of 90% of healthcare claims. But the point of that, Mangione was quoting somebody else who said, has the balls to recognize that peaceful protest has gotten us absolutely nowhere, is pointing out a truth that people have exercised their democracy. People have protested for universal health care. People have protested against predatory for-profit health care. People have voted, and healthcare costs have gone up. The private health insurance industry has gotten more powerful. Pharmaceutical companies have gotten more powerful. So this is not me saying go out, get your guns, and shoot down CEOs, but this killing of Brian Thompson and the just tsunami of outcry against the health insurance company are showing that a lot of people feel they have no choice but to take more extreme measures. In addition to that online post, previous posts from him on Reddit, allegedly written from him on Reddit, show his chronic back problem, and give more insight into why he did what he did. Mangione, 26, appeared to operate a Reddit profile where he detailed health issues, including back pain, brain fog, and sciatica. Several posts were made on a section of the site known as subreddit, dedicated to the spinal condition spondylolisthesis. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Several details appear to link the profile of Mangione, and a 2016 post contained a link to a page on GitHub, a coding website. Let me read one part. One of Mangione's apparent posts on the R spondylolisthesis subreddit, dated to February of 2024, referred to having had a surgery for the condition 6 months prior. So this would indicate he had surgery in 2023. Quote, yeah, I had an L5-S1 spinal fusion 6 months ago after 1.5 years of failed conservative treatment. Within 7 days of the fusion, I was on zero pain meds. That's probably faster than most folks, but my point is just that your body isn't supposed to be in pain and need meds. Even after getting my back sliced open and my spine drilled into, I wasn't in much pain. Several other posts advocated surgery for the condition to other users. One post claimed that as a nuclear option, readers seeking surgery could convince doctors of its necessity by faking a foot drop or deliberately urinating on themselves. In another post in August 2023, the user remarked how his spinal injury was once completely devastating and worried he was destined to chronic pain and a desk job for the rest of his life before considering surgery. I want to read you more of his alleged Reddit posts, because within them, there seems to be indication that he, at least for either a short or long period of time, was denied surgery. Published under the username Mr_Cactus, Mangione's alleged post shed additional light on his mindset in the months leading up to the killing of Brian Thompson. Quote, when my speaking of spondylolisthesis, went bad on me last year, it was completely devastating as a young athletic person, Mr. Cactus wrote in a subreddit for spondylolisthesis, a condition where the vertebrae in the spine slip out of place. Seemingly, all I could read on the internet was that I was destined to chronic pain and a desk job for the rest of my life. They added that the thought completely destroyed them until learning about the prospect of spinal fusion surgery, which connects two or more bones in the spine, preventing movement between them that can cause some type of back pain. And I have a little experience with this myself. I'll share in a minute. The 26-year-old suspect's alleged account was surfaced yesterday by a handful of Reddit users who claim to have recognized Mangione from his posts and comments in R spondylolisthesis. Quote, I feel like I've seen his username in my notifications before. This is crazy, one user remarked. In April this year, Mr. Cactus had shared advice with the community. Keep trying different surgeons. Nobody will operate on my back until I'm at least 40 is nonsense coming from a medical professional who lacks perspective. That's interesting. Of course, speculation. We don't know specifically. I'm sure we will find out what his personal timeline and experiences were. But it seems by the writing of this Reddit, which allegedly was him, it seems that either he had, tried different doctors to get approval for spinal surgery, which is fusing your vertebrae together, or and was told you're too young. He was 25 or 26 at the time that he might have been denied by more than one doctor, or he knows that has happened with other people. This actually did happen with me. As I told you yesterday, I had a severe back issue, short term, where my L5 disc, we'll show you on the screen now, my MRI, my L5 disc, which is at the bottom there. So you see the healthy discs, and then that disc at the bottom where the end of it is bulging onto my S1 sciatic nerve. It was bulging and herniated for so long, a piece of my disc had actually broke off and was stuck in my spinal cavity. So it led to severe muscle spasms down my leg. My hamstring, my calf had severe spasms. I had total numbness in my left foot. I got emergency surgery to get that disc, the piece of disc that broke off, out of my spinal cavity. Then I did physical therapy for a year, but still I had issues. So I did a cleanup surgery the next year. And then about 2 years later, I wasn't in severe pain anymore, but still tightness, stiffness. So I got an MRI and it showed, as you could see on the screen, that my L5 disc is very, very narrow, very narrow. There's barely any space or disc left in there. So I have tightness, because when you have that small of a space of a disc, it squeezes on your lower back, which causes tightness in your hamstrings, calves. I still have a little numbness in my left foot, my left toe specifically. And I said to the doctor, would spinal fusion help this? But I was older than him. I was in my mid 30s at the time that I spoke to the doctor. The doctor said, try to hold off as long as you can for spinal fusion, because that's fusing, that would fuse my L4 and L5 together, basically L4, L5 discs. But it only really lasts for like 15 to 20 years. So the younger you get it, you would just have it would only really last the actual benefits of it for 15 to 20 years. That's why they, unless you absolutely need it, tell you to wait as long as you can. So the doctors that might have been denying him, telling him you're too young, probably for that reason, because it only lasts for about 15 to 20 years. I don't know his specific case. I don't know how many doctors he went to, or how bad his situation was. I'm sure we will find all those things out. But he also allegedly wrote that in the Reddit, that if you're in this situation, you should tell doctors, tell them you are unable to work, do your job, they added. We live in a capitalist society. I've found that the medical industry responds to these keywords far more urgently than you describing unbearable pain and how it's impacting your quality of life. Plan Z, fake a foot drop or piss yourself, they continued. This is the nuclear option, but there comes a time when it's just ridiculous that people won't operate on your broken spine. And by the way, this is, and should tell you, Reddit took this account down, and a spokesperson said we typically take accounts down if they're linked or allegedly linked to, a serious crime like murder. But I should tell you, I mean, under the video I did yesterday, I knew back pain is common in America. I mean, the comments under my video yesterday, which exploded, by the way, hundreds of thousands of views. I mean, it is just a flood of people talking about their chronic back pain, from young people to older people. So this is a serious issue, and it's not just the physical aspect, it is the mental aspect as well. I want to show you here. The suspect appeared to be driven by anger against the health insurance industry and against corporate greed as a whole, according to an NYPD intelligence report obtained by CNN Tuesday. Quote, he appeared to view these targeted killings of the company's highest-ranking representative as a symbolic takedown and a direct challenge to its alleged corruption and power games, asserting in his note that he is the first to face it with brutal honesty. You think? What an assessment. Yes. A symbolic takedown indeed. Whether you agree with it or not, and I've said from the beginning, I'm not telling you to go get your guns and shoot down CEOs, but there's a reason there is an outpouring of affection for this man and support for this man, and now, a flood of offers to pay for his legal bills. There is a reason. Places like the New York Times just suddenly deciding to report on this. Reaction to CEO killings exposes frustrations with the health system. Again, total minimization. It's not frustrations with the health system. It's disgust, anger, fury. Get rid of it. In some quarters, the suspect in Brian Thompson's murder is being defended and even applauded by Americans who share his outrage over the insurance industry. I'm not reading this whole thing, but I'll show you a little. The killing of the UnitedHealthcare chief executive, Brian Thompson, has mesmerized a deeply polarized nation that shares a collective frustration over dealings with health insurance companies. On social media, some people have cheered, it's more than some, for the gunman and expressed little remorse over the death of Mr. Thompson. That adulation reflects public anger over healthcare, said Nisakan Akpan, managing editor of Think Global Health. Quote, the UHC killing and social media response stem from people feeling helpless over health coverage and income inequality, he said. The topic is so often ignored by American public officials, he said, that voters have stopped listing it as a top priority. It's also ignored by the New York Times. It's also ignored by the Washington Post. And when it's not ignored and covered, it's lied about by them. They, along with CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, and all the rest, pushed out nonstop propaganda when, for the first time in forever, we actually had a candidate fiercely and aggressively calling for universal health care. They pushed out lies and propaganda about his position, what universal health care is, who would be administering it. The government would not be administering it, despite the New York Times and others' lies. I also want to show you a clip from another out-of-touch elitist, Chris Cuomo on News Nation, who wants to lecture you, the American people, and do some weird reverse psychology thing about how you, the American people, are, faking yourself as victims. Buckle up, because this was beyond the pale. Chris Cuomo yesterday reacting to Luigi Mangione's outburst on his way into an extradition hearing.
And completely out of touch and insult the intelligence of the American people.
Would have been nice if they wrote what he said. He was screaming about the injustice of our healthcare pricing and how it is offensive to people's lived experience. And what he didn't say is that he's innocent. And forget the fact that when he sees the cameras, he's like a tiger, but he was a pussy cat when it was just him and the officers. The message he hissed should be heard. Healthcare so expensive, so easily denied that it offends people's lived experience with oppressive health insurance. But how would he know? He had a bad back in a surgery, but there's no reason to believe he was left broke or broken by a horror story with an insurance company. His lived experience was making money off healthcare. His family owned nursing homes that made them rich. 7-figure donations to hospitals, paid for him to go to the Ivy League, to live in Hawaii, to create his best life. My point is not to diminish the outrage about healthcare, or even to diminish him, but to source where what we're seeing with him comes from. You see, this guy is part of a problem that is harder to fix than healthcare or any corporate issue. He is proof of a new fundamentalism, appropriated oppression. In this case, the anger of those who get done dirty by big health insurers. And he's not alone. He reminds me of white kids I've seen turning protests about police using excessive force into riots, or more recently, like the kids on campus wearing the Hamas headgear. There is a new wave of people right here who have decided the best way to address perceived injustice is to pretend to inhabit the victim role, as if they live it, which they don't. The problem with that is the pretend leads them too often to the extreme.
I don't even know where to start, and this is not the only person talking this nonsense. First of all, Chris Cuomo, I was wrong the other day. His net worth is actually $16 million. $16 million. So this is who is lecturing us, you, the American people, on, I guess, fake victimhood and reverse victimhood. Headline, CNN. paid Chris Cuomo millions before he was fired. What is his net worth? Easy breezy. Estimated 16 million. So this is the guy we should be listening to on victimhood, right? But there's something important in here and what he's saying. First of all, it doesn't matter. First of all, when he says Luigi Mangione and Americans are expressing fury at healthcare pricing, that's not what they're expressing fury at. This is not about healthcare pricing. This is about a corrupt system. This is about healthcare. This isn't a healthcare system. And it's not about pricing. This isn't, I went to the restaurant and boy, that salad was really too expensive for what I got. This is about a healthcare system that is killing people. People don't just think the rent is too damn high. They think the system is corrupt. They think we live in a healthcare Hunger Games, which Chris Cuomo and his family have never had to suffer from. Because if they get denied, they have the money, trust me, to pay for whatever treatment they need, whatever medication they need. To sit here on one breath, he says, I'm not vilifying the alleged shooter. But, he was out there living his best life in Honolulu and his family's rich. You know who else was super rich? Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Adjusted for inflation, his net worth was $60 million. Rich, rich, richy rich. And he, more than any politician in the last century, did more for the working man and woman than anyone in American history of the last century. Did a lot of bad things too, but the New Deal, government programs, Social Security, strong labor unions, mass government mobilization for jobs. He was rich. So you could be rich and still see injustice elsewhere. You could be rich and still want to take it to your fellow men, i.e. a class traitor, as he was called. So this, Chris Cuomo and others trying to, do some gaslighting. Well, he was rich, so what's his problem? He had the money to pay for healthcare. Just because you're rich, most rich people don't give a shit about anyone else. But there are wealthy people that see injustice and want to do something about it. And how does Chris Cuomo know who the protesters out wearing keffiyehs? How does he know about their lived experience? How does he know if they've actually been victimized? And what does it matter if you are directly a victim? The people who marched in the 1960s and protested all across the country to stop the Vietnam War, they weren't all themselves being sent to Vietnam. A lot of them weren't. They weren't all themselves at risk. They were doing it because sometimes, even if you aren't personally affected, you treat it as if you're in the crosshairs because you care about something greater than yourself. That's called, Chris, being a patriot. So you don't have to personally be a victim to care. Ugh, what a gas bag. I want to show you this other clip. This one is from other wealthy neoliberals, Pod Save America. We are going to see more of this. We are going to see more of this as more information about him comes out, as potentially the trial begins, further hearings. You are going to see mass crowds of people out there supporting him, and the media and the Chris Cuomos of the world scolding those people. This is not about whether you support vigilante justice or not. I don't think you should go out, get your guns, and mow down CEOs, because trust me, if that starts happening, it'll come back triple, quadruple as fierce against innocent working class people, innocent minorities. But this is about this neoliberal hellscape we live in, the neoliberal bubble, the for-profit, everything system is bursting. The peasants, the proletariat are fed up. We will continue covering this. Please, please support this important reporting, because trust me, the corporate media is going to try to move on from this as quickly as humanly possible.